Hi, welcome to In the Zone with Patricia Tone. And guess what? Tonight is story time. So please hit that subscribe button, leave a comment at the end, a like. Tell me what you thought about this story because it is a doozy. So I've been seeing all the new commercials about A Different World. They're having their 35th anniversary. And baby, let me tell you, I wanted to be on this freaking show. And I did everything I could to get on this show. Back in the day, when I first got to LA, I was introduced to being a talent assistant, and that's someone who works on award shows, and you walk the celebrities around to different areas in the auditorium, you monitor them, and you make sure they're in the right place at the right time. And I might even be a seat filler that night and sit in their seat as they go and accept the award or whatever, or present, and then get up when they come back so that the audience looks completely filled. Well, I met a ton of people, and I met some of the cast of A Different World. I met Sinbad, I met Jada Pinkett Smith, I met Kadeem Hardison. I actually introduced Kadeem Hardison to Shantae Moore, who he ended up marrying, but it was the best time I had in my life. And so at that time, they would have these events around town in LA, and I would hear celebrities' names on the radio where they're going to be guest appearing and promoting these events. And I would get up and go and try and meet these people so that, it's called schmoozing, entertaining, networking. And that's how I grew up. You get out, you go meet people, and you connect. Well, I would follow and go to any place where I heard Debbie Allen's name. I absolutely loved Debbie Allen. She was a dancer. I wanted to be on Fame. I thought I could dance as good as they could dance on Fame. And so when I got to LA and I started hearing her name, I was like, hey, oh my God, A Different World. I want to be on this freaking show, because A Different World represented my speech and drama club in high school. Okay. And so it was just this close knit group of people who were in the speech and drama club. We had these great relationships. We had fun times. We would go and compete. And so when I saw A Different World, it reminded me of us in our speech and drama organization in high school. And so I heard that Debbie Allen was going to be at this club. I caught the bus, went down there, and followed her in the restroom. And I was begging her to help me, to get me on that show. And, I didn't know how Hollywood works. All I knew is to meet people and try and, get a job, And so I know I was on her last nerve, and she was in the restroom. And it was, as I look back on it now, I know it was inappropriate, because she's in the restroom. But, I had this feeling, I was like, go for it. And so she was washing her hands, and I was begging her, and she gave me the information to come down to be a background person, And so I went down there, and let me tell you, I have never felt so, I had never felt so invisible in all my life. And I went there, and I was sitting on the bleachers or whatever, and there was really no one around but this one guy. If I tell you, this guy never looked at me, never, his head never, ever turned toward me, leaned, not anything. I was so devastated. I was so hurt, but I wasn't giving up, right? So I decided to write letters. Back then, people would write in to their favorite shows, to their favorite actors and actresses and things like that. So I wrote a letter. I didn't even have a typewriter. I was dating this guy at the time named David, and he had this typewriter. And I remember going over there and using his typewriter in his bedroom. And so I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to show them, right? I'm 20 some years old. I said, I'm going to show them. I don't know how Hollywood works. So all I knew was to do what I thought was appropriate, so I would, I wrote these letters, right? And at first I wasn't even keeping a copy of them. That's how dumb I was. Back then, I didn't know anything about copywriting. I didn't know anything about and getting an agent or a manager or any of that. And I was just trying to do things, my own networking way, the way that we did things down in Texas. You go out, you meet people, you talk. If they like you, you all work together. So that was my approach, not thinking anything that about how Hollywood has a system, because they don't teach us that in school. They don't teach you how Hollywood works in school, not at that time. So anyway, I wrote these letters, and let me tell y'all something. I was going through my bags the other day, cleaning out some stuff. I was looking for, look at the date on that. Can you see that? Look, I wrote a letter to Sinbad, and I wrote down what I thought I could do on the show. And so it was a trip because I didn't even know what was going to happen next. So I wrote the letter to Sinbad. I wrote the letter to Debbie Allen, and I wrote the letter to the producers, and I got a rejection letter from the show, right? I got a rejection letter. And I even took notes because they told me down here, this is where they told me that they only review materials through agents franchised by the Writers Guild of America. And I was like, well, who the hell is that? And how do you do that? And so I started researching, and I started asking people who I was around what this meant, how you do that, and how you do this. And I kept, at it, writing these letters. But here's the thing that was the knife in the heart for me. Once I was at church. At that time, I was going to West Angeles Church of God in Christ on Crenshaw and Jefferson. And that was a popular church, all the celebrities. And one day I was at church and Debbie Allen showed up. I thought, oh God, this is it. She is here. You've heard my prayer, Jesus. And she goes out the side door. There was this side door in the old church that led to the back parking lot by the pastor's administrative offices and things like that. So I saw her go out the door, and I'm like, okay, go for it. And I got up and I went out that door. And as soon as I opened the door and closed it, we were face to face like this. And so I was standing there, and she went, ah! And she took off running down the hall. And I was standing there like, what the fuck? And I remember just standing there like in total shock and a little hurt, but that was the end of my pursuit. And like I said, of course, she probably thought I was crazy. Of course, she probably thought I was now they probably call them stalkers, but I wouldn't even use that word because I was never not cordial or nice, and even with the yell in the hallway, I had never even said hi yet. I hadn't said anything, you know, and so that's why I was so startled. But it was the end of my pursuit to be on the famous show of all time that I loved in my heart and soul, A Different World. And so when that second season started, I kind of figured out why I was getting the reactions and responses that I had gotten. And I'm not, I'm just going to tell you what I did. Like I said, I wrote my own characters down here at the bottom. I said, notes, here are some characters in mind, right? I'm writing for myself. So the first one I wrote, fashion model student, business major, dresses as if she's always posing for Vogue magazine. She wants to have her own clothes on the market, her own clothing line. And I had just imagine this new girl coming into the dorms and she gets to be Whitley's roommate and she's in there trying to design and alter Whitley's clothes because Whitley was always about her clothes and things like that. And so I thought this would be a fun character to have this new little fight and relationship with this chick about clothes and fashion and styling and things like that. And then the other one was a law student. Now, this is where it really rang for me from high school. So the law student, she's always asking questions as if everyone is on the jury. They're having like pretend court, when people have their differences and they are always about the law and, just things about court and jury and law student and things like that. And I had on this one, because I wrote more than one character. I wrote a couple and I would mix them up, right? And so this one I had on here, I had cheerleader, always cheerful, because I was a gymnast, so I put that one on there. Then I had one where give Dwayne Wayne a girlfriend to make Whitley jealous, things like that. But, that's a no-brainer to write for professionals to write on the show. So anyway, when the show started that next season, and I saw that first episode where Jada Pinkett Smith was doing fashion, my mouth was on the floor. And then when they gave the law student role to Freddie, my mouth was on the floor. Now, I'm not blaming nobody. I'm just telling y'all what had happened. And yes, they say like minds think alike. And they say, more than one person has the same idea. But yeah, I don't think y'all understand how much I love that show. I really don't. People, I'm not the only one. Everybody loved that show. Everybody did. But I loved it from almost more angles and standpoints than other people. I loved it because I was a writer. I loved it because I had directing skills in me. I loved it because, of the cast. I loved it because it reminded me of my high school friends. I loved it because it was Debbie Allen from Houston, Texas, who went to my high school. And I'm telling you, I did try everything I could to be on that show. I even wrote letters to Felicia Rashad, like all the way in New York, as if she could speak on my behalf. And I don't even know why she would do that. She didn't even know me. But I tried. Oh, and then in this letter, this is coincidental that I wrote in 91. I wrote to Felicia about my background too. I was telling her I was an actress and I had taken a class from Inazaki Shanye for that book, who wrote the author of For Colored Girls Who Consider Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. So it is still mind-boggling to this day that I wrote this letter about that book and Felicia Rashad starred in that film years later, the one that Tyler Perry directed. That's a trip for me as well. But yeah, they're having their 35th year anniversary, A Different World. I fucking love that show. I wanted to be on that show so badly, but it didn't work. And the reason too, let me tell y'all something. Y'all people might say, well, why would Debbie Allen just walk out and scream and turn around and she don't know who you are? Well, I always sent a picture. I always had my little picture up there with my letters. Yeah. I didn't even know I still had this stuff. And baby, let me tell you, I found some other stuff in my bag. So y'all better tune in to my channel because I got some more stories. And to all the cast at A Different World and all the people who produced that show, I still watch that show after all of this, after being stabbed in the heart and then feeling like I was stabbed in the back. But I still watch that show many, 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 many times. And I'm happy to say as well, when I met Jada and Kadeem and Sinbad at the time, everyone was so nice. Those people were so nice to me. Yeah, I'm just going through memories. And it's funny because like I was telling this story and I'm laughing because I was in the zone, and to have named my channel or this series right now, In the Zone, that's exactly what I was in when I was trying to get on this show. I was in my zone. I didn't know nothing. And, I was slightly, all these years later, I'm slightly kind of disappointed that even if I wasn't going to be on the show, that no one stopped or paused to tell me or help me understand how Hollywood worked, the procedures and the processes of doing this and that. And yeah, all these years later, though, I did get my degree, master's degree in TV and film. And I'm directing independent projects and I'm still writing. I have scripts on my desk right now. And I'm just not going to give up. Not gonna give up. So thank y'all for this episode, my storytelling episode of A Different World, and congratulations to them for their 35th anniversary. Have a great day, great evening. Thank you. Subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you for watching.